What's going on, everyone? PJ on draft, doing another draft today, not taking fantasy players, not doing anything with fantasy. We're doing Vegas over-under win totals, some NFL season predictions with season kicking off this week. Big predictions ahead, doing it with big waves. Let's go. So here's how I went about this. I did not look at the Vegas over-under win totals that were published. I started this exercise by first just doing win-loss totals myself. I'm not going like week by week in the schedule. I'm just doing a projected record for all 32 teams, make sure it adds up exactly to 500 at the league level at the end. So how that came out is I have 19 teams of the 32 that I am off of Vegas's win total, which I looked up after, by 1.5 games or more. So meaningfully off. I'll go into those. There are 13 teams where my projected win-loss total was within a half game of what Vegas had as well. So basically, I see it the same way. So I'm not going to go into those today. I'm not going to draft those in terms of the ones I like the most versus the ones that I could go either way. So for those 13 that didn't make the cut, I'll still shout them out here. I'm just going to go in division order. And I'll say the win totals just so everyone knows what Vegas and I are thinking about them. You have the Patriots at 4.5 wins. That's as low as it gets. You have the Ravens at 10.5 wins. You have the Texans at 9.5 wins. You have the Colts at 8.5 wins. The Titans at 6.5 wins. So I'm basically there with the entire AFC South, one exception. You have the Chiefs at 11.5 wins. You have the Chargers at 8.5 wins. I actually don't have any in the NFC East. I totally disagreed there across the board. Then you have the Packers at 9.5 wins. The Vikings at 7.5 wins. The Falcons at 9.5 wins. The Panthers at 5.5 wins. The Bucks at 7.5 wins. So again, mostly lockstep with the NFC South, one exception. And then you have the Seahawks at 7.5 wins too. So those are the 13 teams where, again, I was pretty much right there with Vegas. So not doing any breakdown there. But that still leaves us with 19. So here's what I'm going to do. For the sake of doing this as a draft, among the 19 teams, I'm going to go from least confident to most confident and where I have their win total versus where Vegas said it. And the bigger the gap, the more confident I am. So let's start with, we're going to start with number 19. I'd say numbers like 19, 18, and 17 are pretty interchangeable. These are teams that people think are going to be good or even really good in some cases. I don't totally disagree. I'm just slightly fading them. So at number 19, we are starting with the Cincinnati Bengals, who I'm coming under on. Again, this is like a lukewarm take. Vegas has them at 10.5 wins, actually. I have them under. So for each of these teams, I'm just going to give my quick thesis statement, look through the depth chart to kind of back it up. So the Bengals, again, look, if I'm really wrong here, I'll get it. Like Burrow could win MVP. This team could be way, not only better than the win total, way better than it. We saw them go to the Super Bowl just a couple of years ago. It's basically still the same core. I don't know, though, just with like Burrow's injury stuff, which seems kind of real. T. Higgins playing in a franchise tag year. Jamar Chase doing his hold in. But then they don't really have like a real running back, at least as of right now, unless like Chase Brown breaks out. They don't really have a real tight end. Amarius Mims is already a question mark, which was the fear when they even drafted him, and he hasn't even played a real snap yet. The defense has kind of just gotten kind of boring. Like, it's not bad. It's just the same group, like with some kind of recent misses in there. This team did such a good job building in the draft and even in free agency in 2020 and 2021. And it's kind of been not the exact opposite in the last 2 years, but they've just done like a thoroughly mediocre job. They're not getting a lot of contributions from their top draft picks. I don't know. I just kind of see the defense being average, even if the offense is good. I just think they're going to be like kind of a middling team, especially in a good division. All right. At number 18, we have the New York Jets. Vegas has them at 9.5 wins. I also have them under. All right. With the Jets, I know they're the team everyone wants to talk about right now. They're obviously, I shouldn't even say obviously, they should be better with Aaron Rodgers. I'm not even really like fading him. It's just like he wasn't the best the last time we saw him on the field. I think people forget that we did get a full season of him after the back-to-back MVP seasons. But it's not even about Rodgers. It's like one, Nate Hackett's really bad at this. And the Jets offense still, like, I know we love Brees Hall and Garrett Wilson, especially for fantasy. And look, they're great players, at least especially Garrett Wilson is, but their receiving core still is like really bad after him. Um, I just don't love the weapons all throughout. I don't think they've like magically solved the offensive line, which like it'll be better, but I don't think that's been the core of their issues anyway. I don't know how much contribution like at all they're going to get from the rookie class, which is always something that I keep an eye out for when I'm doing these over under picks. And the defense, look, it's still going to be great, even if Hassan Reddick decides to show up or not. But year over year defense is a lot more volatile than year over year offense. So I think like the defense, even if it's like great, I don't know if it's going to be the number one defense again. And I think the offense is going to be like all right. I don't know. I just think like a lot's being made about a team that obviously has a lot of headlines, but at the end of the day, it's going to be like maybe a fine team. I don't know. It kind of reminds me of that 1 year that Favre had with the Jets too, where they finished, I think, like around 500. And at number 17, I already kind of spoiled it. It's going to be another under among a popular team. It is the Philadelphia Eagles. Vegas has them at 10.5 wins, going under. With the Eagles, this is one I didn't even really expect to be pessimistic with. Again, like it's marginally, but still. I was just more so surprised where Vegas set the line at 10.5. Maybe they know that Philly fans will bet overs. They could set it at 16.5 and Philly fans will bet overs. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But it's just like this team was inarguably one of the worst teams in football over the second half of the season last year and into that dreadful playoff game. And look, they'll obviously be better. They've made some changes, but I still can't totally shake that. And look, I know like people are excited about Kellen Moore. Yes, he should be excited. He should be better than Brian Johnson was. I think it's the best move for Jalen Hurts' long-term success. I'm not like positive that things are going to pop off in the first year. And then Vic Fangio, look, he gets results, but I don't know if that's the coach I'd want to bring in when there's already volatility around the players versus the coaches. I'm not a Nick Sirianni guy at all. I don't trust him to lead the ship. He kind of feels like a dead man walking, which is a good reason to always pick a team's under. Yeah, and then looking at the defense, look, there's big names on paper. I'm sure they'll be all right, but you got some age concerns in the secondary, both players that are getting up there versus starting rookies or playing, young, unproven guys, big reps. I don't know. The Eagles to me are just like, I don't see this even as a total negative. To me, like, I always thought of this season for them as like Howie Roseman's really great at doing these soft resets where he doesn't have to totally blow things up and can just restart kind of new contention windows. I think this might be one of those years, and we're not totally catching on to it. I don't know. I just think they'll be like decent. Like, yeah, they could definitely win the NFC East because I don't think it's going to be a good division, but I don't see them as a real like NFC threat this year. All right. Number 16, time for our first over. We have the Las Vegas Raiders at just 6.5 wins, according to Vegas. I'm taking the over. This one with the Raiders isn't that hard. I mean, 6.5 is just really low. They won 8 games last year with Jimmy Garoppolo, like tanking their season, not on purpose, and like Devontae Adams openly hating him at quarterback, and then throwing in rookie Aiden O'Connell. Like, and now they chose Antonio Pierce. Whether it's the right long-term solution, I don't know, but the team's going to play for them. I just think the Raiders will be scrappy. They doubled down on being scrappy by signing Gardner Minshew. The Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer thing will be fun. I kind of like the weapons with those two, Adams and Jacoby Myers. The offensive line's not that bad. Defense is going to play really hard, if anything. They have a really good defensive line anchored by Max Crosby, who's going to be a defensive player of the year candidate for the next few years, and now Christian Wilkins. I don't know. Like, I just think, and then the Broncos and Chargers, say what you will about them. Like, it's 4 games each against them, and shit, they even beat the Chiefs pretty handily last year with Pierce coaching the team. So I don't know. 6.5 just feels like they're not putting much thought into it. It feels like one that the Raiders should be able to hit. All right. At number 15, we have the Chicago Bears. Vegas calling for an improvement at 8.5 wins, and I am still taking that over. With the Bears, you probably assume this is just me betting on Caleb Williams. And like, yeah, it kind of is. I do think he's going to be awesome. It helps having a really good receiving group, a solid offensive line, some, running backs and tight ends too. But to me, it's more that this team finished strong last year and won 7 games with just basically absent quarterback play and way worse weapons. The defense was straight up good in the second half of the season, basically after the Montez Sweat trade. He's awesome. If they can get anyone to pop across from him, it might be like game over. They might be a lock top 10 defense because the linebackers are really good. The secondary could be awesome. It's a really young group with some studs in there. So the division could be hard, but I don't know. I just think like I get why people are afraid of the Bears historically, but just like on paper, they should be able to win 8+ games. And like, even if you believe in Caleb a little, which I do at least a little, then I think you should take the over the 8. We are up to number 14. And considering the team that's next, I'm going to remind that these are lukewarm over-unders, enough to mention in the video, but not my most confident, gut calls here. I'm saying that because at number 14 is the Dallas Cowboys, and at 9.5, I am taking the under. So with the Cowboys, yes, I am taking the under. I'm not doing this for clicks. I know they won 12 games last year, and they usually win 10+ regular season games. It just feels like they're kind of openly like telling the world that they don't totally believe in this version of the team, whether it's, publicly not extending the head coach or the quarterback, fighting tooth and nail over what should have been a really easy negotiation with CeeDee Lamb. It just feels like, and then they spent all of their draft picks on the trenches. It feels like they're building up for the future, which is probably the right call. I think Jerry Jones and co, beyond being kind of cheap with cash, are like probably sick of losing in the first round of the playoffs. In some cases, getting embarrassed in the first round of the playoffs. I think they're just trying to reset this thing, and they might as well, try their best while they still have these guys under contract. But I think the Cowboys are thoroughly going to be like a either 8-9 or 9-8 team that gets into a bunch of shootouts and are probably entertaining, probably a good fantasy team for the main couple guys, but in real life, probably a high floor, low ceiling kind of team. At number 13, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars, who Vegas has at 8.5 wins. I'm definitely taking that over. I'm not to like the top confidence level yet, but we're getting closer. The Jags, this is where it starts. Probably teams I'm going to start putting money on, or at least thinking about it. Jags with the over. This one with the Jaguars isn't all that hard at all. It's either as simple as believing in Trevor Lawrence, which again, I think we're all saying like bounce back. And yeah, I do think he'll be better, but I think he's already pretty damn good, and his circumstances were not so much last year. And I think that's going to be way better this year. Last year, their offensive line was just dreadful. I think it'll be much better this year. I think like Anton Harrison can make the Pro Bowl jump. They kept Ezra Cleveland around, which is a good move. They brought in Mitch Morse, just a solid center. Cam Robinson's back from a suspension. The weapons are still not all that exciting, even if Brian Thomas like can be an upgrade in year one for them. I just also think the defense is going to be way better. It has a way better coordinator this year around. I love Josh Allen on the edge, Trayvon Walker, even if, the first overall pick thing was probably a bad idea, it should still be at worst a really good complimentary edge. At best, he could make a Pro Bowl jump this year. The division isn't anything special, even if it's improved. The Jags won 9 games last year, and things didn't go that well. And the total's 8.5 now. Let's not overthink this one. It's still Trevor Lawrence. It's still Doug Peterson, and the other pieces are either not bad or straight up good. So I like this one a lot. Actually, the Jaguars win the division, so definitely taking the over. At number 12, we have the Buffalo Bills, who Vegas has a high total of 10.5. I'm still taking that over. Josh Allen, it's probably going to be the overs for a while. We're up to the Buffalo Bills. Yes, the new look Bills. They moved on from Steph Diggs. They moved on from Ken Dorsey during the season last year. It's Joe Grady running the offense full time. It's still Josh Allen under center, and I'm really excited about it. Look, things did not go that well for this team last year, and they won 11 games. The line's 10.5 this year. I think this version of the team, even if it's different, even if they've lost some defensive personnel as well, I think this team's going to be better. I like what they're doing, even if like it doesn't immediately resonate on paper. I just think Josh Allen's going to play much more comfortably in this offense, and it's going to be like the loosest we've maybe ever seen him. I totally buy the MVP campaign for him. I think he's going to love that group of receivers who just kind of like go to the right spot. I think they're going to use a lot of two tight end sets. Dalton Kincaid's going to be even better in year two. There's continuity on the offensive line. James Cook should still be really good. I like what they're building there, even if even if it was a kind of hard reset in Buffalo and it's going to look a lot different. And then the defense, I don't think it's going to be good, but I don't think it's going to be bad either. I just think they could have a great offense, a solid defense, and that's a pretty good formula to win 11 or 12 games, which either way would be the over. Okay, at number 11, we have the Arizona Cardinals, a team that won 4 games last year, and Vegas now has at 7.5. I get we're excited, probably a little too excited though. I'm taking the under on the Arizona Cardinals. All right, with the Arizona Cardinals, I know particularly for fantasy, we're excited about them. They got Marv Jr., who like was my number one prospect. Like I'm not gonna crap on that excitement. And you got Kyler who can run. James Conner is an underrated player. Yeah. Like I get it all. This team won 4 games last year with Kyler returning the second half. Like I know they played hard, but like this reminds me so much of, I know it's personal for me when like the Giants had like a surprisingly mediocre first year under Joe Judge, where they like got a lot of compliments for like playing hard, even though like they didn't really have much of an identity and we didn't still totally didn't know who they were. This is me saying like I don't believe in the Jonathan Gannon Cardinals still. I think this defense is still maybe going to be the worst one in the league. They still have personnel problems elsewhere. Like the right side of the line with Will Hernandez and cast off Jonah Williams, like it's going to be bad. We still haven't seen a full season of Kyler, who like I haven't given up on at all, but like I don't know if he's still like a great real life quarterback. Look, it's just like a pump the brake situation. They play in a division where they're going to have to play the 49ers, Rams, and Seahawks twice. I just still think this is like a 5 or 6 win team. Maybe they'll get there like in a next year or the year after to like the 500 and above level, but I don't think it's going to be with Jonathan Gannon, and I will take unders probably so long as he's coaching the team there. All right, we are into the top 10. Another big win total at 10 is the Detroit Lions at 10.5, and we are still taking that over. So with the Lions, I know they're in like the middle of my list, and my projected win total wasn't as far off as Vegas's projected win total with some other teams, but this is one of my more confident ones, I should say. I don't know how this team doesn't have at least tied for the best win total in the league. They kind of have all the makings of a team that's so confident and is like on a mission and should breeze through the regular season, sans something like catastrophic happening, which I guess it is the Lions, but let's pretend like they're not. This team won 12 games last year, and like I guess they lost like yeah they lost Jonah Jackson, but like besides that they lost like Josh Reynolds, and then they like hammered the cornerback position, which was a weakness last year. They traded for Carlton Davis. They drafted Terry Arnold, who was my first or second favorite defensive rookie in that draft. Enos Rakestraw is going to play right away. They're just like obviously better on defense. The offense should just only mature. Jameis Williams, the jump might actually happen. Jahmyr Gibbs is probably only going to get better. Penei Sewell might make his claim this year as the best offensive lineman in football. I just don't like this team's winning 11, 12, or even 13 games. They might go undefeated at home. This one's not that hard. Okay, from picks 9 right here all the way to pick 3, we have a tier jump. I was pretty far off with these ones with what I thought, blankly looking at it versus what Vegas is putting out there. And to kick it off, a team that I'm not like psyched about by any means, but it's the Denver Broncos at number 9, who Vegas has at just 5.5 wins. Come on, well, I'm taking the over on that. 5.5 wins is a joke. Like it's really hard for any NFL team to finish with 5 wins or less, let alone a Sean Payton coach team. Which like say what you want about like him, which I have some things to say, or like track records not being perfect. Like Sean Payton's not going to lose 5 games or less, and nor should he with this roster. Like it's not good, but it's fine. And like his stats aside, Russell Wilson was not good last year, and like Sean Payton would be the first to tell you that, or as would his offensive linemen. Which again, the Broncos have a pretty good offensive line, and the running game is younger. It should have more juice. They still have like Pat Surtain on defense. They got some players on D, and Bo Nix. I hated the draft pick. He's an he is who he is, and he's going to be ready to play, and he's going to be like scrappy and like win some games and be entertaining at least in year one. I would have never ever in a million years taken him there, but like for it, do I think he can win 7 games with all the support in the world? Yeah, I do. Okay, at number 8, we have the perennial powerhouse San Francisco 49ers. But Vegas has given them 11 and a half wins. That's a big number. Teams rarely win 12 or more games, and they've got enough going on. I'm sure they'll sneak into the playoffs and be really annoying, but I'm still taking the under on the 49ers regular season win total. 11 and a half. Really big number. So with the 49ers, this could honestly be the quickest one. Like 11 and a half is tied for the highest projected win total in Vegas, only with the Chiefs. They won 12 games last year, a year where like a lot went right for the 49ers. Obviously, if you're following football, things aren't already going that well for them. Look, I know they figured it out with Ayuk and Trent Williams, and Chris McCaffrey is supposedly healthy, and like that might all be true. It's just really hard to win that many games again, let alone with the first place schedule. The defense shouldn't be as good. There are some question marks on it. Like it's still going to be good, and honestly, like I actually love what the 49ers did with their limited draft capital, but like this is a team that could win 11 games and go under. It's not rocket science. It's just like take the odds that they're probably going to finish under that. At number 7, it's another under. This time we're going the other end of the spectrum, though. It is the Washington Commanders. Vegas giving them an over-under of 6.5 wins. Come on. With the Commanders, I mean, it's an improved depth chart, I guess. Like they made a lot of like stopgap signings, which I support. They have the money, they have the cap space. Good on them, I guess, for using it. Like they got some solid players who are upgrades, but this is still a really, really bad depth chart with some like glaring holes in it at key positions. Even if Jaden Daniels is better than I think he's going to be, which I think he's going to be like probably all right on the first contract. I think like you can expect him to probably play like even with optimism 11, 12 games, considering his play style and body type and it being the NFL and their offensive line being the way it is. And their backup quarterback is Marcus Mariota, like who cannot win a game in the NFL. The defense is not exciting either. I don't like the coaching. I have a hard time finding good things to say about this team, even if like they're slowly moving in the right direction. It's still like the right direction from rock bottom, and I still think they could be really bad this year. Potentially, like I do think they could be like worst team of football bad if things don't go well with Daniels. So yeah, I think this could be a quite bad team. Certainly less than 6.5 games. At number 6, we're actually sticking in the NFC East with the same exact win total, but we are going the other way. It is the New York Football Giants at 6.5 wins as well, and we are taking that over. Solid faith in them hitting this over. I actually like even have dart throw, long shot, division faith here, especially considering what I've said about the Eagles and Cowboys and Commanders, and that it's one of those things where it always comes true where there's the out of nowhere division winner. I'm obviously low on the NFC East. I'm not like my biases aside, crazy high on the Giants. The quarterback is still Daniel Jones for week 1. They still have weaknesses. Like, trust me, I get it. But the Giants, beyond having coaches I really like, with a head coach in Brian Dable, who I think is clearly the best in the division, I think like I look at this team and I see actually like an identity forming, which is more so up front on the defensive side, which with Dexter Lawrence, who's probably one of the at least 10, maybe 5 best defensive players in football. You have the edge duo in Brian Burns now and Kayvon Thibodeau. That's awesome. Bobby Okereke and Mike McFadden's a fun linebacker duo. Deontay Banks could make a Pro Bowl year 2 jump. And then on offense, even if like, just remember in 2022 what Daboll and Mike Kafka did with a nothing group of personnel in offense. It turned into like a top 10 efficiency offense, which I don't think that's going to happen again, but say they are league average with Malik Neighbors and now like a, say what you will, way better offensive line, even if it's still like average and patchwork, it's going to be a lot more reliable. If this is a middle of the league offense and like the same for defense, but even maybe slightly better, and maybe it's just flat out a good defense, that could be a 9 or 10 win formula. And like with a weak schedule, which the Giants will have being as bad as they have been, like sometimes that's all it takes. So Big Blue over, certainly the over in the win column, maybe even long shot odds too. Top five time. And at number five, it's another over. This time, a team that's a little trendier. It's the Los Angeles Rams. Vegas is only giving them 8.5 wins. We are taking that over, and that could be a. I'm even coming at this conservatively. That could be a big over. With the Rams, this is one of those lines that just like I never would have guessed is as low as it is at 8.5. Basically, Vegas asking you, are the Rams a 500 team? They went 10-7 last year. The offense, by like all measures, got better in the offseason. Cooper Kupp is healthy by all accounts. They brought in Jonah Jackson. They re-signed Kevin Dotson. I mean, like the offensive line's going to kick ass. Kyron is, still very much in the picture and healthy. Stafford supposedly feeling great. And like, I get the defense is young and anonymous in some places, but it's not one that's like short in investment either. But at the end of the day, this is Sean McVay, who maybe besides Andy Reid, maybe even having him in mind is the best coach in the NFL. I think like Puka Nacua could be like offensive player of the year kind of guy in year two. I just am surprised by this line. I think the Rams are certainly in the picture to be a top five offense, if not even better. And I don't think the defense is going to be like a disaster even without Aaron Donald. Maybe that's what Vegas is pricing in, but the Rams are going to be a better than 500 team unless everything falls apart with injury, which you can't really ever bank on in these kind of things. Okay, at number four, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Vegas is giving them 8.5 wins. I know that's the Mike Tomlin never finishes below 500 line, but I have to take the under looking at this roster. Look, I know the Steelers won 10 games last year with Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, and Mitch Trubisky, and that Mike Tomlin always finishes above 500. And like, I do have respect for that, but cutting through bias and narrative is how you win sports betting, basically. And Vegas is tempting you here. Like everything about the Steelers depth chart says this is a at least subpar team. I think you can make the argument this is maybe aside from like, I don't know, the Carolina Panthers, the worst offensive personnel in the league. The quarterback situation is really bad. It's a recipe for disaster, potentially, especially with Arthur Smith coaching it. You have no receivers at all after George Pickens, who I'm not even sure is a league number one. The offensive line is really young, and even though it's heavily invested, it might not be good, which is a big misconception that people make all the time. The running game shouldn't, I mean, maybe that's like better, but like I'm not excited about it. And then the defense, like, yeah, the front seven still kicks ass, but like that's where the Steelers spent some high draft picks and some money with Patrick Queen. Like they needed it everywhere else. Even the secondary is propped up by two guys in Minka and Joey Porter Jr. Like, this just isn't that good of a team. And like, I'm sorry, coaching can only take you so far. And I know it's the Steelers, but I think this is like really big look in the mirror time for the Steelers come next year. I do not think this is a 500 or better team this year, especially in the AFC North. And at number three, we have another AFC North team, actually. It is the Cleveland Browns, who Vegas is also giving 8.5 wins. And unlike the Steelers, we are taking that over and feeling very good about it. With the Browns, I'm sure this is a team that people probably aren't thinking a lot about, or maybe even are juicing the under on, considering like they're most closely associated last year with the Joe Flacco Cinderella run. And yeah, that was maybe fluky, and people are like, oh, that can't happen again. Not this people. To me, the main thing with the Browns is this is probably the best defense in the NFL. It might even be even better. They kept Jim Schwartz. They reinvested in some places. Just everywhere on this defense is loaded. And like Miles Garrett definitely could win Defensive Player of the Year again. Um, they kept JOK around. They extended him. The cornerback trio is almost definitely the best trio in the league. I mean, the Jets one's good, but like they're right up there. And then the offense, I know the big thing is Deshaun Watson. Look, I'm not a believer. Maybe he's okay. I don't know. But the thing with the Browns, like, I actually don't know if I care. I think Kevin Stefanski is that solid of an offensive head coach. I think they can run the ball. The offensive line is still really good, and it's really deep now, too, which I love. The receiving group is deep, and now they have a deep group of running backs, too, even with Nick Chubb out the first few games. Like, I think that, yeah, I think you could put Jameis under center with this team and have him take care of the ball, or even DTR and have a little more athletic of an offense. I just think like they're gonna figure it out at quarterback. I think it's probably what holds them back from like contending for a Super Bowl. But in the regular season, I think this team is like just efficient enough on offense and so dominant on defense that like no one's gonna want to play them, especially come like November, December. I'm super in on the Browns. This is one of my favorite plays of the year. All right, we are into the top two. We're going to pause here beyond it being the top two. These are the two teams where I was hugely off. So they're in a tier of their own at the top here. These are my two favorite over-under plays of the season. Fun how it ended up where it's one over and one under. We'll go glass half full, so we'll save the over for last. But at number two, we have the glass half empty under. It is the New Orleans Saints, who Vegas is giving 7.5 wins, and we are feeling really good about going under that. With the New Orleans Saints, this is very much a like nothing gold can stay case. Bad pun with it being the Saints, I know, but I mean, this depth chart is just so disappointing and like must be tragic for Saints fans considering where this team once was. We are long removed from the all-time 2017 draft and that team that got robbed on the defensive pass interference call against the Rams. Like this, unfortunately, the Saints front office is still trying to make it work with that core, even though it was like 3 presidents ago. This team just stinks and like really stinks in some cases, like with the offensive line, with the weapons after Chris Olave. The secondary is good, but like the defensive line is more names than it is production probably at this point. And this is just what happens when you kick the can on the cap forever. This is very much anyone who says the cap isn't real, show them what happens to the 2024 Saints. A team that like last year wasn't actually that bad on paper. Like they somehow finished with like an above average offense in terms of scoring and like they won, some games they probably shouldn't have won. But if you watch this team and if you watch Derek Carr, you know they're dead. They have total lame duck quarterback, head coach. Alvin Kamara is probably going to want out of there. You're probably going to see them dump veterans midseason. Like to me, this is a team that I know it's the Saints. I know they always just continue pushing it to the next year. Like I may be foolish. I think this is the year they finally take their medicine, maybe even go for the first overall pick because or maybe they bench Carr and let Spencer Rattler play, but it's got to happen in New Orleans. This is a team that's only going to keep getting worse. And everything about this roster just says it's going to be a really bad team. All right, we've reached the last one, number 19 of 19, but number 1 of 32. My favorite play of the over-unders across the NFL this year. It is an over. It is the Miami Dolphins. Vegas is giving them 9.5 wins. We are hammering that over. Fin up. And with the top spot, I do have the Miami Dolphins, where I am enthusiastically shouting from the mountaintops, screaming at the heavens to take the over, take all the season award picks, take the Super Bowl picks, take the Super Bowl matchup picks, which are really fun to bet on and you get really good odds on. Look, I know the Dolphins are easy to make fun of with Tua for a few reasons. They think Mike McDaniel is, he's a fun, like, mad scientist who can't get it done in the playoffs, or it's a team that, went to freezing cold Kansas City and looked like the softest team in the league. Look, I get it all. It's also the same team who was scoring, in I think one case, like 70 points in a game, was giving up on games in the third quarter in some cases, was just lapping teams, and it was a track meet. And They got better, like a lot better. One, they kept McDaniel, obviously, who and extended him. I think he's, say what you want about him. I still think he is a premier offensive mind in the league. I think he doesn't get nearly enough credit for innovating this offense in ways that might not be always picked up on, but are subtle enough to make huge differences. Something I think he does even better than the McVays and Shanahans of the world. I think this running game is going to be just as good as ever. I think Tyreek could have 2,000 yards. I think Jalen Waddle could break out with full health. I believe enough in Tua. I think the offensive line is fine enough. I love that they got a backup for Teron Armstead. But on defense, too, they brought over Weaver, the coordinator from the Ravens, and just the personnel's freaking good. I feel like this is one of the things like that is not getting nearly picked up enough on. That is like a real storyline is that the Dolphins defense might be awesome. They were really savvy in free agency, just like mid-tier to even 1 year, just like rock solid additions. In some cases, I think even better with like Jordan Brooks, who's really good. Kendall Fuller, still really good. Jordan Poyer, Marcus May, maybe not individually all that great anymore, but together should get good safety play with Javon Holland, who's maybe even an all-pro kind of player. Jalen Phillips is back from his injury recovery sooner than we thought. Calais Campbell took a discount to play on the line. Zach Sealer is a Pro Bowl type player. And I said Jordan Brooks already. Him and David Long is one of the most fun, if not the most fun linebacker combo in the league. You still have freaking Jalen Ramsey, who is still a elite cornerback. I just think this is a team where you're going to have Bradley Chubb coming back mid-season. You have Mo Kamara and Chop Robinson on the edge as rookies to do enough. The offense, I still think, is going to be so freaking elite and maybe even at its most consistent. I just think this is a team that, like, come October, we're like, holy shit, how didn't we see this coming? Last year, we were having a conversation around that time being like, could the Dolphins go undefeated? Obviously, it fell apart. They still won double-digit games fairly easily. The line is 9.5. I think this is a way better Dolphins version of the team. I think they're going to play angry. I think they're going to take it personally how weak their season ended last year. I think they're going to kick ass. I think they're going to go to the Super Bowl. But that's not even what we're betting on here. We're betting on regular season win totals. I think the Dolphins are going to coast to double-digit wins, and I think I honestly think this team could be the best record in the NFL. Like, I'll just put it out there, and I'll end with that hot take. And yeah, Dolphins, bet it all.